You could be on a bus. You could be in a shopping line. You could be at work. Like, it makes me really proud that we're at a point where women who are suffering from miscarriages, who are going through the absolute fucking trenches of pregnancy loss, can go, okay, well, someone like Tones and I has experienced it. She's able to talk about it. I'm not broken. There's not something wrong with me. It kind of takes a bit of the stigma away from it and the shame away from it. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Life Uncut. I'm Laura.
I'm Brittany. I got tears in my eyes. I was just telling you.
Tears.
Should I just say it?
On my pillow.
No.
Pain in my heart. I have a story about that, which we can go into.
No, I was just telling the girls. So I went away on the weekend to my really wholesome family Christmas party. We do it every year ahead of Christmas so that all the families can do their own Christmases.
Because you boycott Christmas every year because now you're overseas.
They definitely don't move it forward for my behalf. But yes, I'm not here for Christmas. No, it's the kind of Christmas party where all the aunties and uncles come and the cousins come and the grandkids are there. It's a huge get together. But because I'm one of 4 kids, but as you get older, everyone has their own families, so they can't all travel because they've got different commitments. So we do it ahead of time. But all my nieces and nephews were there, and I was having these beautiful D&Ms with them because I am the self-proclaimed cool auntie. So I was trying to connect.
Are you allowed to call yourself the self-proclaimed cool auntie? I think they think that you're the cool auntie as well. But is it just because you tell them that you are? I'm cool, goddammit. No. I'm on the TV.
No, do you know what I heard them say? My other sister-in-law was there and I was behind one of my nieces and I heard her say, "Thank you, you're my favorite auntie," to the other auntie.
Scandal.
And she turned around and saw me. She looked me dead in the eye and I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "You're my favorite famous auntie." I was like, "I'm your only famous auntie." But I was having this D&M with them and I was asking about what school is like and their friends and are they dating? They're very young. And one of them looked at me and she said, "I don't want to tell you because you'll say it on the podcast." And I was like, "I've never, ever said anything and I promise I would never." And she was like, "You promise?" And I had this moment where my heart broke and I was like, "I will take to the grave anything you tell me." The fact that she was old enough to know I even have this platform and that she thought I would say it absolutely ripped my heart out. And I can't imagine the feeling that parents always feel when they have these kind of conversations with their kids.
Well, I mean, I guess most parents are not sharing stories on a national podcast, but also it makes me think that maybe your brother or your sister-in-law has said something, because that's not a 12-year-old who is probably not listening to podcasting wouldn't just assume that you're telling her stories on a podcast.
Well,
Do you know
I actually think she might even mean the radio. I think because she knows that she hears me on the radio. So I don't think she actually knows about the podcast. I think she thinks it's the radio. And I was like, "I've never mentioned you in my life. Why would you think that?" She's like, "I don't know. I know that you talk for a job and stuff like that." And I was like, "No, tell me everything. Tell me who you're kissing. Tell me, I want to know."
But if it's good content, I'll change your name.
No, I would never. Yeah, I'll never out you.
That's a joke, everyone. Yeah. That's what we call a joke in the industry. So I understand this though, Britt, from a parent perspective, because as much as we share so much on here, there's so many things that I at the same time have to self-moderate, because I never want my kids to get to an age where they go, "Hey, you told that super personal thing about me on the podcast." So as much as we share, there's so much more that we don't, which you guys all know that already. I feel like you've been along the ride with us long enough now that I'm so happy to throw myself under a bus, but I'm not going to throw the people I love under there with me.
Also, believe it or not, guys, this might come as a shock. We have boundaries.
No.
We do have boundaries.
Poor ones. That's what makes such a good podcast. They're very flimsy, but we'll tell you how to have good boundaries. That's what it's all about. I was talking about this with Matt on the weekend because that song, "Tears on My Pillow," came up. We were in the car, we're driving down the coast again, and we were listening to old bangers, really all the good old tunes that you would listen to. And growing up, my mum I'm sure Celine Dion did a cover of it, but we couldn't find it. But Kylie Minogue absolutely did a cover of "Tears on My Pillow." I was in year 4. It was a talent quest. It was the talent quest at school. And I stood on stage and sung "Tears on My Pillow" to my entire primary school and just did these arm actions over and over, round circles. Tears on my pillow.
How old were you?
Pain in my heart. I was about 9.
No one told you to throw some extra moves in there?
I was 9 and I got bullied for a good 2 years by the kids that were in year 4 who the reason why it stopped is because they went to high school.
They literally physically
What
couldn't
did
do
they
it.
say?
They grew. Anytime they'd see me in the canteen line, they'd just do this with their arms, like windmills, because I stood on stage. I tried so hard.
Okay.
Killed me.
I don't want a story top, but when I was in primary school, I was actually told this story on the weekend. I entered the talent competition as well, but I entered it with a group of 4 girls, and we did a dance. And
Sorry, I'm just picturing Mean Girls when they're in the Santa costume.
no, we did this one move. I choreographed it. We did this one move where we all lined up like dominoes, and we had to body roll back. So all of us in sync, body rolled back like that and threw our heads back. My head, I was in the middle, and when I went back, my earring got stuck in the girl's hair behind me. And then when I tried to come up, it just ripped. I screamed, and it was still stuck in there. So she ran off to dance, and I was running across. My head was attached to her head still by the earring, and she didn't realize what was happening. So I'm being pulled across the stage by my earlobe, and the other 2 girls are still trying to go on with their choreography.
It actually makes sense why you have such saggy earlobes.
That's
now.
why.
So, like, okay, you might think I'm being mean, but
Yeah, also, bitch. It's an insecurity.
Brit's had her ears sewn up, but then now it makes sense.
Yeah, do you know that I had my ears sewn up in my bedroom by an ex-boyfriend?
What do you mean?
So my ear holes are a bit split, like not all the way through. I can still wear earrings, but they sort of sag a bit. Like the outside layers are split. I was dating a doctor at the time a couple of years ago, and I didn't want to. I was like a povo. I didn't want to go and get scripts, and I didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to do it. So I will not name names. He can probably get in trouble, but he just brought all his equipment home, and he just did this little operation in my bedroom. He just sewed my ear holes up. But they didn't sew up properly. I guess he was still in training, so he didn't know it wasn't in plastics either. But I looked into it the other day because I was like, maybe I'll sew them up before the wedding. Erin Holland, who you guys know, we've had her on the podcast. I've been thinking about it for ages, and she just posted about it. She just got hers sewn up. Hers were really split too. But I looked into it, and it's $3,000. It's $1,500 per slit.
Why?
I don't know.
For a little stitch.
Oh, they're making money off of all of us millennials who had spaces
Insecurity.
back in the day. Do you
Yeah.
remember when spaces and like the side fringe and stuff, that was all the rage?
Yeah.
I think no one has ever noticed your saggy ear holes, and now they will because I've pointed them out. But prior to that, no one ever would have noticed. So you
No.
don't need to waste your money on that shit.
But also, you make it sound like my earlobes hit my knees when I walk. They're not saggy. It's just they're split.
My boobs and your earlobes have
Between
a
the
lot
two.
in common.
So do your ears hang low? Do they wobble too? Bro?
My earlobe could hold hands with your nipple as we walk.
Oh, cute. I knew we loved each other.
Anyway, safe to say I didn't win that talent show.
Okay. Well, yeah. Look, actually, that's a good call out though. If you guys have any horror talent show stories, because I think everybody at some point in their life thought they had a talent when they were at school, and they tried it and they got up on stage and they did the thing that actually they were particularly bad at, and everyone clapped and whatnot. But you look back on it and you're like, wow, I really am an embarrassment to myself.
Do you know what I did though?
Oh God.
I was like, I'm going to come back stronger the next year and make up for it. So I choreographed a new dance that it was all around pool sticks.
You've been watching too much like Britney Spears or
No,
something.
we had a pool cue. The whole dance was with pool cues. We would stomp it in front of us, kick it around and swirl it around and stuff on the stage.
Very burlesque for a child.
So
It was terrible.
my I'm just gonna out my sister for a second because she won our talent school, like the school quest, right? Whatever it's called, talent quest, the school. And
Don't act like you don't know what the title is just because you lost.
No, she won it, right? But she fucking cheated. So we got bought one of those big keyboards for Christmas, right? Because we were learning piano as kids. But this keyboard was one of those ones that had different songs already like loaded
Programmed in,
into it.
yeah.
So you just had to do like set key 1 and then it would play a song, but it would play it as piano. So my sister went in the talent quest and she had Hey Jude pre-record loaded. So like she sat on stage
And just faked it.
and played Hey Jude, and it wasn't her playing. It was the keyboard was just doing it herself.
But could they not tell that the keys weren't
No,
going
the keys
down?
don't, because you're on stage and everyone's sitting down there and no one can see the keys, and she was just doing this and she fucking won.
Was she really like doing, you know how they lean in and stuff? Like, was she
Feeling
leaning
it.
in? Yeah.
She cheated. She fully cheated.
And you didn't
then-
tell anyone?
And I got on stage and sung Tears on My Pillow and got bullied for 2 years. So mean.
This is what I'm going to do every time.
Tears on my pillow. Pain. Okay, we can go. So you guys might have seen if you're big followers on social media, or you might have completely missed it, and we'll update you anyway. So Tammy Hembrow, she is a very, very popular social media person. She's a fitness influencer.
Entrepreneur.
She's an entrepreneur.
She's an absolute boss.
She really is. I mean,
Yeah.
she's literally got millions and millions of followers. And she recently got married to her partner, Matt Zukowski, who was on Matthew.
Matthew Zukowski. You've had trouble with that name. Matthew Zukowski.
She got married to her partner, Matthew Zukowski, who was from Love Island.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why we're talking about this isn't about their wedding, and it's certainly not about their love story. We're talking about it because just the other day, a British actress, her name is Betsy Blue English, posted to her 166,000 followers a very, very pointed post, which was on her stories. It was a picture of Tammy Hembrow in her second outfit from her wedding, standing over a multi-tiered cake. I'm talking like a
7, I counted.
Did you? A 7-tiered cake, a cake that was taller than her, that she had to stand up to cut it. So this woman, Betsy Blue English, posts a story and it says, "I wish people would get their own imagination sometimes." And it is a direct picture below that of Tammy Hembrow cutting the cake. Now, the reason why she's posted this is obviously because she thinks that Tammy has taken a lot of inspiration from her wedding and has copied her wedding. Because if you go back through her photos, she also has a massive 7-tiered cake and she only just got married recently. It looks very similar. They also had similar dresses, similar style themes, similar.
Here's the thing. I follow both of their weddings. I don't follow Betsy Blue, but my algorithm is weddings. And she's big over in England. So it got shared around a lot. So I followed her wedding. I looked at her wedding. I loved her bridesmaids' dresses. I even was like, oh, maybe I could take inspo from those dresses. It was a beautiful wedding. I then saw Tammy's wedding. There is not one part of me that thought Tammy had copied Betsy Blue English. And I think it is hilarious that Betsy Blue English thinks that she's the first person in the world to have a 7-tiered cake. It is literally a wedding trend at the moment. If you go to wedding trends, giant cakes are the trend.
Who started the trend though? Was
Definitely
it
not Betsy Blue.
Blue.
No, but I think it's sad that I think it's sad that we go to the extent where we want to call someone out because they have a similar cake to us months apart on a wedding in a different country, you're on the other side of the world. Why do you care so much? Even if Tammy did take inspiration from the wedding, take it as flattery. Why is it offensive? You got married first. Your pictures were out first. It's a fucking wedding cake. I'm sorry, but you don't own rights to a 7-tiered wedding cake.
You're so mad about this. Okay,
No, because I just don't get it. I'm like, why kick up a stink? Just be flattered that she thought your cake was beautiful enough that she wanted to do it, even if that's what she might not have even done that. She might not know you exist, Betsy.
Well, you might think that Betsy's calling her out, but the thing is, so she posted this picture, a very direct dig at Tammy Hembrow, like a literal photo of Tammy Hembrow on her Instagram. But then the next thing she followed it up with was, when you spend the entire day thinking that something was on your close friends, and she deleted the original picture. So how many of you have accidentally sent something in the wrong group chat or sent something live on Instagram that was meant for your close friends? That is the literal reason why I don't have close friends, because I do not trust myself to distinguish between things that are okay for public consumption and things that are okay for people who know me really well.
I also don't have a close friends for that exact
Don't
reason.
trust it.
And my close friends are you guys, so I'll just tell you on the podcast anyway.
Mitch Churi has a close friends, and every so often he posts things that are real spicy, that are slightly cancelable. And I'm like, you are flirting with getting fucked, my dear. You are flirting with it.
And he just doesn't care.
He doesn't care. How nice to be a man and not have to care about being cancelled. Wouldn't that be
because
great?
they're not cancelable. Even Armie Hammer ate someone and then he came back. Allegedly. There's no stopping these guys. I do question, and I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, that she did accidentally post it to close friends and it was up there for 18 hours. But there is a part. We did.
He did it.
Allegedly. Allegedly, he had a nibble.
Cancelled or sued, whichever one comes first.
He hadn't. Yeah, who gets cancelled? The girl that had a cake or the guy that ate someone? The girl that got the cake.
Oh,
it's not
dear,
fair.
So good.
Yeah, I just do wonder because she's an influencer and she's an actress and she lives on her phone, right? She creates content. She also has a brand. She's an entrepreneur as well. But I do question if she did post it to close friends and then realize 24 hours later, because someone that lives on their phone and is that clued in and their job is online social media, I believe you would have been notified or figured that out a lot sooner. So I'm just sort of wondering if maybe she did just post it, thinking that more people would be on her side saying, yeah, that's crazy. But I think it went the other way. I think a lot of people were like, bro, it's just a cake. Like, this is a stretch, And I wonder if then she's like, oh, how do I wiggle my little wiggly tush out of this? And she's like, oh my God, I accidentally just meant it for my group chat. I don't know.
I don't know. The whole thing to me is seemingly a little bit petty. Like, I mean, and I say this as someone who copied a lot of other people's weddings. Like, my entire wedding was just a rehash of things I'd seen on Pinterest that I liked. I was like, cool, I like those flowers, screenshot. I like that cake, screenshot.
That is literally every single wedding.
But she's a creative, and I think that people who are like attached, she's in fashion. Like, I can understand where she's coming from, where she's like, I put my whole heart and soul into creating this particular look, and I don't care enough about weddings to be as angry as what she would be.
Well, you better start caring, Keisha.
But what I mean is, like, if it was something that I was creatively attached to, like, let's say that, I don't know, someone copied jewelry that Laura designed, or someone copied, a podcast that we'd created, or I can imagine myself being shitty about it.
See, I understand this because I have been in the boat of someone who has had my jewelry copied. Like, I mean, I know exactly what that is and how that feels. When The Bachelor was on and Tony May kind of like got pushed into the spotlight because I was wearing it on the show a lot, a very, very, very big and a very, very iconic Australian fast fashion brand brought out an entire range, and there were 7 pieces in it that were identical to my pieces, like two pieces that had been in my collection for a really long time, and they were selling them for a quarter of the price because they weren't sterling silver. Like, this stuff happens, and that is, I think, commercially very different, because that's like my viability. That's my, not just my creative output, but it's my ability to make an income.
But I also don't think those are comparable. Like, we've also, Life Uncut, we've had people copy like segments of ours, parts of ours, pretty specific things. And it's not cool, but also, have you ever heard us say anything? We would never, because it also is a space where there is still room for everyone.
Yeah.
The difference is, this is a cake, a wedding cake. Billions of people get married. It's like me getting married, walking down in my white dress. Spoiler, it's white. And then next week someone else gets married and I'm like, can you believe that bitch? She wore a white dress.
It's very different
no,
to that.
It's not. It's a cake.
Also, I think if that were to happen, I wouldn't post it on my story, but I would send it to you guys. Like, if I thought someone had copied something of ours, of any of ours, I would send it and be like, can you believe that they've done this? Like, I wouldn't post it on my Instagram story, but I probably would say the line, I wish people would get their own imagination sometimes.
That is something you'd say.
I just think it's interesting, like, because, I mean, I do disagree with you a little bit in this, Britt, in that, a 7-tiered wedding cake that is taller than yourself is a specific look. Like, not everyone has that. And it would be, anyone who is creating an idea for a wedding is probably going to Pinterest and finding the most Pinterestable and aesthetically on brand, ideas. So I'm sure that whoever created this look for Tammy's wedding had seen Betsy's cake. I have no doubt.
It is literally in every wedding magazine and every blog. It is the trend for weddings right now. This is not unique to these 2 people. I promise you, because I am balls deep in wedding.
Yeah.
Not Ben. Wedding. I haven't been balls deep for a while. I mean, he
Ben
hasn't been balls deep because I don't have testicles. Yeah.
I haven't had balls inside me in a long time.
Anyway, continue on.
No, okay. Look, I mean, maybe that's the case, and I'm not into the wedding aesthetic.
Both of you bitches need to get into weddings because I'm getting married.
No, I'm not into the wedding aesthetic to that level. Like, do you know? And even when I wasn't looking at cakes. Like, cakes are a very specific part of a wedding that some people care about and some people don't even eat. But to me, a wedding is not something that I would be upset if someone copied. Like, if someone did the exact same flowers as my wedding, if someone booked the same band, if someone got the same photographer, like, I don't care. Replicate my wedding. It was great.
Yeah.
I've tagged all of the people on there for you to do so. Do you know what I mean? So
I agree.
I kind of feel as though there are things in which you can take really personally, and when it comes to your creativity being copied, there are things that actually have meaning. And to me, someone copying your wedding doesn't take away from your wedding.
I was also lucky because I literally took her bridesmaids' dresses to my bridesmaids, and I was like, do you guys like these? I think I like them. Lucky they vetoed them. But if they didn't and I wore them, Betsy Blue would probably be calling me out.
No wonder you're so fine with this. You're like, it's so fine to copy people's weddings. Betsy, I'm coming for you.
No, because Betsy sells them as bridesmaids' dresses.
Your dress is the same as her dress, isn't it? You
Well,
fucking copied her wedding.
It was. Made some calls.
Not
I
after
changed
this.
it. No. Do you know one thing I've learned recently that I did not know that blew my mind? Probably seems obvious, but I've learned that a lot of wedding cakes aren't real.
Mm.
They're made of cardboard, and there's one tiny little quarter or however big you want it that is the cuttable part that is a cake. So that 7 tiers, probably 1 tier of it's the actual cake that they cut.
Yeah, the top
Yeah.
piece that they're cutting is the cake. The
Sorry,
rest of
mind
it is
blown.
not cake.
I've
No.
seen videos on TikTok where people have mistakenly tried to cut the wrong layer.
Well, we did a call out. Have you ever posted something by accident on your close friends? It was supposed to be just a call out for like the close friends list, but we ended up getting a lot of things sent in to us that people have just posted to someone that they weren't supposed to post to.
The reason for this is because I've actually done this with you guys twice in the past fortnight. So, you know, in group messages, how it comes up, like for anyone who uses iMessage, it will come up with the people's name. And we have multiple chats where there's the 3 of us. Then there's some with Jono. There's one with Claire who works at the radio. And I accidentally sent, luckily it wasn't anything bad, but I accidentally sent something that was just meant for our 3 to one that had Claire in it. I've sent things on Instagram to groups when I thought it was just the 2 of you, because if your names will come up first and then the third person's would be at the end.
Your attention to detail is off the charts, Keish, one might say.
Unmedicated days.
You do
But
need
it
to
happens. I think I just need to stop sending anything that's like even slightly spicy.
I think the more common one than sending and putting things on your close friends and accidentally, you know, misjudging the wrong kind of, you know, whether it's public or close friends, is that people will often send things on Instagram, but instead of sending it to the person, they actually send it to the creator. You guys would remember like the iconic one that happened to me when Marley was really little is somebody was replying to my story, but they meant to send it to their friend and they were like, oh, look, haha, at least her kid got a bit cute. Which means that
finally her kid got cute or something.
Yeah, finally her kid got a bit cute, which means that earlier she thought my kid was not cute and her friend were having that discussion privately.
To be fair, you used to post her all the time and call her like a turtle.
Turtles are cute.
They are cute.
Yeah, look, we've all done it. We've all accidentally sent things to people that we shouldn't have sent them to. And here are some of the absolute bangers that you guys wrote in. So I sent my boyfriend at the time a message that was meant for my best friend saying, I really want to break up with him. Effective way of doing it.
It's one way to do it, isn't it? My friends bitched about me in a group chat that I was in. They obviously didn't know I was in the chat. That's sad. That's bullying.
That's really mean.
That's
But they're not
attention to detail
friends.
like mine.
No, but your real friends don't do that.
Well, obviously not. They hated her. That's why they were bitching about her.
Well, then why are they in a friend chat?
She did put friends in air bunnies, so it doesn't seem like they're friends anymore.
I sent a video of my bum to my husband and accidentally made it my Facebook story.
I sent my CEO a screenshot of my period tracking app saying, oh, I might be horny. Imagine sending your period because you don't know, Laura, because you don't track it, but on your period apps, I get notifications throughout the month. So it tracks my cycle.
Jono's nodding like he knows. Why do you know this, Jono? He's a modern man.
tracks
He
his
has
period.
his girlfriend's period app
Yeah.
in his phone, so he knows what stage of the
Yeah.
cycle she's up to.
That is the type of partner we all need.
Yeah.
Jono, you're a modern man.
Yeah. Ben does that, but when you track your app, you'll get a message saying, hey, you might be feeling hungrier today, or today you might be feeling tired, and today you could have increase in arousal. So it'll tell you. So she's probably gotten the notification being like, you could be horny today. That's what she would have screenshot. The message from the app popped up. She sent that to her CEO. Look
That's
out.
so
I'm coming in. I need
to leave work
early. Might want to jump on it.
Or she's like, I got to take the day off. I'm sick.
Yeah.
I posted a video doing, wow. Okay, I didn't read that one before I was about to say it. I posted a video doing nose beers on my Snapchat story. That's terrible. That's a great way to get yourself fired and cancelled.
Go to prison.
We prison?
I don't know. It was pretty excessive.
I
But
think-
you never know these days.
Yeah.
If the NRL players of Australia are anything to go by, no, you would not go to prison.
Once again, boys, men.
I dirty text the wrong Cameron in my phone. One was my boyfriend, and the other Cameron in my phone was a church guy that I had a crush on as a kid.
How do you accidentally text not the person who's not your partner? Like, don't you text them all the time so that their name's at the top?
But if you
No.
go to like write a new message and you just type in,
I've
if
done
you
that.
typed in CAM, it would.
Matt
Yeah.
is still in my phone as Derek, and every so often I go and look him up as Matthew and I can't find him. And I'm like, that's weird. Derek. I shared a photo on socials of myself and my friend's new baby before she'd even announced the birth.
she's here.
She'd be so dirty.
I meant to send an explicit nude to my husband, but I accidentally sent it to our mortgage broker.
She sent a nude to a mortgage broker.
She's like, really got to get me that loan.
Can I have a discount?
Give me good rate, good interest rate.
I sent a text to my dad about fearing for my life with my mum's driving, except I texted to my mum. That's
Imagine
one.
if they were in the car together and it came up on the screen and it, like Siri announced it.
That is one way to like really tell your mum that her driving is fucking horrifying.
Listen to this one. At age 50, I accidentally sent a romantic e-card that was meant to go to my partner. I sent it to a young 19-year-old intern. I sent my partner the work email. The romantic email said, I love what we have. Let's keep walking this path together hand in hand. Imagine sending it to your 19-year-old intern. I love what we have. Let's keep holding hands on this journey.
That's so good, guys. Look, if you have any more, if you've accidentally said something to the wrong person, we want to know about it.
Don't you remember that time? You guys will remember, but some of you might be new. But I was maybe 8, 9, 10, let's say 10 years ago, before I had done The Bachelor, before I was just working in a hospital, regular job, regular life. And somehow I got set up with this person that was pretty famous, and because a mutual friend, and somehow he agreed to go on a date with me. I don't know, but it was happening and I was beside myself with excitement. I could not believe it. I was like, yes, this is my ticket to paradise. Anyway, I was just in scrubs at work. I remember I'm so traumatized.
I'll do anything.
I'm so traumatized that I remember the exact spot I was in the hospital in my scrubs. He was sending it to me saying he was going to pick me up and we were going to the movies and going to dinner and whatever else. And I screenshot it and then just sent it back to him. I sent it straight back to him and
done that.
Yeah, and I was like, it's on. And it was supposed to go to my friends. It was like this moment of like, can you believe this? And I just sent his message straight back to him. And I just wrote to him. I was like, it's over, isn't it?
Did he take you out still?
He did, but I wrote back and I said it. I just owned it. I was like, it's over, isn't it?
You're like, I'm a loser.
So I was like, I just blew it. He's like, no, we can still go out. But he's like, that's very funny. I was like, okay, you caught me. I was sending it to my friends.
I was sending it to everybody. I'm so
I was
excited.
posting it to my close
It was
friends.
on my close friend.
I was hoping Betsy Blue English would see it.
It didn't go anywhere else.
I once, a long time ago, had a friend who was a really good friend of mine, guy who I'd been friends with for years. Obviously, it meant more to him than it did to me, and he wanted to not be friends and he wanted to take it to another level. And
He wanted his ticket to paradise.
I was sitting on the toilet. I will never forget because it was like that moment where I was like,
See, it's so traumatizing. You know where you are.
I was on the toilet and I got a text message from him, which was like, I have feelings for you. You know, it's taken me so long to tell you how I feel, blah, blah, blah. And I freaked out, shut my phone, opened my phone and messaged my girlfriend, Sarah. And I was like, let's call him Jason. Jason has just fucked our friendship. How dare he? I would never date him. And I sent it directly back to him. So mean. So mean. He did fuck our friendship though. We're not friends anymore.
So you didn't fuck.
And I didn't fuck him.
You're not friends anymore
We're not friends anymore.
because of that.
He didn't want to be friends with me.
The message was pretty
Fair.
clear.
So
Yeah.
he was like all or nothing ultimato.
Yeah.
The ultimato. He's like, you take me all or none.
Or nothing.
And you were like,
Well,
none.
You're saying, wow.
You're like, that's the easiest thing I've ever done. I feel really sorry for him because that's
Poor Jason.
really the way you speak to your friends and stuff is very different to how you would deliver news to someone like that. So like
totally.
that is
But
crushing. Were you doing number 1 or 2?
I was doing a poo. That's why I was in there for a while.
Yeah, that checks out.
Thanks.
Did he ever get married or has he
Yeah, he's
moved
got
on?
4 kids now. It's
Okay.
fine. He's fine.
The fact that you know that you still check up
Oh
periodically.
no, we are friends. We're just like, you can't be best friends with someone who confesses their undying love for you, and then you say, "I'd rather eat my own shit than date you." Like it really changes the
What
dynamic.
did he say back? Was he like, ouch?
He said loud and clear. That's all he wrote.
Oh, I'm so
I know.
uncomfortable for you.
I was really young, guys, and I
bet you weren't.
I was meaner than what I am now.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's not mean because you would never have sent that to him.
And Betsy Blue would never have sent that to everybody. It was a mistake, guys.
Anyway, Tammy's wedding
Influencers
was
make
beautiful.
mistakes too.
And Tammy's wedding was beautiful.
Brits will be exactly the same next year.
Yeah, I've just got to go make some edits. Just a heads up to everyone, the conversation we're about to have now is heavily surrounding pregnancy loss.
Now, this is a really big gear shift of a conversation, but it's something that we all have been talking about in our group chats. And it's something that I think is so important to share and have a discussion about. You guys know that we love Tones and I here on the show, on Life Uncut. And
Personally.
And personally, we love her. We do. We adore her. She joined us in Melbourne at our Life Uncut live show. She also came on and did an episode with us recently where she shared so much about her personal story in the very first ever long form interview that she's done. The one and only. You know, she's not someone who shares her personal life very often.
Yeah, she's always said that she's kept it very private because she hasn't felt comfortable with the world knowing that side of her, and she's always felt very judged. And it's been really nice in the past 12 months. I've seen this really beautiful shift where she is obviously feeling more comfortable and she's starting to share a lot more about who she is, and that's allowing her to connect more with people, and it's so nice to see.
Yeah, it really is. And something that she posted just over the weekend really stopped us in our tracks for multiple reasons. Now, she's on her huge tour at the moment. She just performed in Sydney when we're recording this. It was 2 nights ago. But this was a post around miscarriage. And it's a conversation, miscarriage is a conversation we've had on this pod quite a few times. But I want to read her post directly because it is a long one. But this is what she had to say. The day before the biggest show of my career so far, I was in rehearsals with 30 choir, 30 dancers, and 50 crew. Our final dress rehearsal after years of dreaming and months of organising. I was at the point of the show where I just hit the big note in To Be Loved, the first song of my latest album. As I hit the big note, I felt blood running down my legs. Usually an awkward but manageable situation, especially since this was a rehearsal and not a show, except for the fact that I was 9 weeks pregnant. It was definitely something I wasn't planning on telling people, and I was completely prepared to resort back to the baggy jumpers and pants I once was known for. But here I was, almost 100% I was having a miscarriage, the night before the biggest show of my career. Jimmy and I left rehearsals and we were at the hospital by 8:30 p.m. The pain started to kick in, and after not sleeping that night, I was told I was having a miscarriage. I was told around 11 a.m. the day of the show that the show would not be possible, and I would have to stay in and rest. And I am not condoning going against doctors' advice by any means, but I'd be lying if my mind didn't instantly go to the creative team, the production crew, the dancers, the choir, the fans. I knew there was no way I could let everybody down. So I promised that I would be back, and I left. I arrived at the Rod Laver just in time for my meet and greets, and at the end of sound check and the show. Off stage felt like a blur, but as soon as I stepped on stage, I felt carried. It was unlike any show I have ever performed before. I was lifted by my family on and off stage who knew nothing. I told 3 people that night and let the energy of everyone else carry me through this moment, whilst also not wanting to let this show pass me by. I wanted it to be a night I would never forget. I have to say thank you to my team and to my family for lifting me through what was truly one of my biggest triumphs and my saddest moments. After the show, I went back to the hospital, where the next morning the surgery was completed. I am not a sharer, and it is scary to even write these words. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who was there with me that night. Tones.
That's so heartbreaking. For me, it's unfathomable. I haven't had a miscarriage, but I guess for most people, this sort of feeling of the pressure of not just like that you owe someone something or you have responsibilities or you have work or you got kids to get on with, but I imagine the pressure that she felt when she knows thousands of people have spent money on her show, purchasing a ticket, traveling to her ticket, accommodation. The pressure she must have felt to not let those people down, even though she's going through the hardest moment of her life.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine. And also, which we're going to talk about, Laura, obviously through your experiences, but maybe some people don't know that miscarriages, you don't just miscarry and in an hour later it's done. Like miscarriages can go over days of whether you have an operation or not. Like it's not just a in and out. It's not just it's happening now, I'll be good tomorrow. Like, so she would have been actively still really in this when she went on stage.
When I read this, I felt a lot of things. One thing I did feel though, because I think you can instantly go to like, oh, how would you do that? Like, how would you get on stage? Why would you go against the doctor's opinions and recommendations and everything else? But I also, my very first and overwhelming thought was how proud I felt that she would share this and how honored I felt that she would share this, because for so long, women have not spoken publicly about miscarriage. It is something that, you know, we hear bits and pieces of it. We know it happens. Obviously, on this podcast, we've spoken a lot about it in the past, and we've also spoken about the statistics around it. 1 in 5 women will experience a miscarriage. But to be someone who has such an immense public profile, talk about the fact that they had a miscarriage, was having a miscarriage, and had to continue on. Because the reality is, so many women who experience miscarriage have to continue on, whether it's in big ways or small ways, whether it's getting up and taking care of your other kids, whether it's going to work, whatever that looks like. There are women having miscarriages in all different environments. It doesn't happen just in the comfort and convenience of your own home. And I think like this is obviously a very large scale exception. Very few people are ever going to get up and perform in front of that many people at a time of such huge trauma and loss. But women do it every day in their own small ways. They have to get up and they have to carry on. And so I think that it really just shone a light on it. And for everybody out there who constantly sees like the happy pregnancy announcements online, it really holds space for those who have miscarriages, an inextricable part of their pregnancy journey.
Can I ask, Laura, I'm interested about the whole like feeling as though you have to get up and continue on as though nothing has happened. Did you feel that internally? Like, did you feel, I guess what I'm asking is there a part of you that's like, I want to be at home right now just grieving and trying to make sense of this awful situation that has happened to me that very few people know about, and I'm kind of in private with it? Or is there an element of you being like, nope, I just want to continue carrying on because that's a good distraction and I just don't want to be thinking about it?
Well, I mean, I just want to talk about tones a little bit more, because I think in this situation, right, as much as what she did, she made that choice for herself, but also for the responsibilities that she had for other people, for her fans, for the production crew, for everything. Like the amount of money that it costs to put on these sorts of productions and the amount of people who would have been so deeply disappointed. But the thing is that when you're 9 weeks pregnant, very few people know that you're pregnant. And so she would have had to have come out and given the explanation almost in real time that she was having a miscarriage for the cancellation of the show to make sense.
Not necessarily. I think a lot of people go through things and they just say, I'm really unwell and I can't do the show. We shouldn't put the expectation and the pressure on people to tell us exactly what is going on in their life, no matter how famous they are. So I would disagree with that. I would say she probably felt the pressure to justify it, but she absolutely didn't have to. She could have just said, I'm sorry, I'm so unwell. It's just that would get more pushback.
Chapel Roan did this somewhat recently. It was only maybe 2 months ago. She cancelled some shows saying that she needed to look after her mental health, and she got a lot of backlash from it. A lot of people were like, this is your job. People have spent a lot of money, travel, accommodation, tickets. Like these are people who may not necessarily have that money to throw around, and you're just saying that you're, you know, mentally unwell, like get up and perform. You've agreed to doing this. She faced heaps of backlash for it.
And that's what I mean. Of course, nobody owes an explanation. Like a person who's going through miscarriage does not have to tell anyone anything more than they feel comfortable with in real time. But I think as a consumers, we have very little grace without explanation. So like if it was simply, I'm sorry, I can't perform, there's been a medical emergency or whatever, we feel like we're owed an explanation. And I know that it's not right. And I don't think that it's a culture that is healthy by any means. It puts so much pressure on artists and performers and everything else. But I understand that there would have been backlash, and then Tones would have been dealing with, I'm having a miscarriage and so many people are angry at me. Like that is such a duplicitous thing, and the weight of that probably would have been far greater than just the weight of dealing with a miscarriage in and of itself.
I remember the angriest I've been and the most restraint I have had to show since the conception of this podcast was when you had your first miscarriage, Laura. And this was before Keisha. This was before we had any help. It was just
us.
It was just Laura and just me. And Laura called me and she's like, I'm having a miscarriage right now. And I was like, okay, what do we need to do? And you're like, nothing. I'm miscarrying. I'm just going to go and miscarry and get on with my life kind of thing. But you were in a lot of pain. There was a lot of blood. The episode was supposed to come out the next day. So we couldn't put it out because we didn't have any help. We didn't have anyone. You were literally going through it. And we put a statement out. There was like, hey guys, sorry, Laura's really unwell. A lot of stuff going on. We can't bring you the episode today. We're going to make up for it. It was such a nice post. And the messages that I was fielding off so that you wouldn't see them. And I was furious. The people that were writing to us saying like, what a fucking joke. Like you guys have a responsibility. Take your job professionally.
Yeah.
You say you're going to put an episode out, put it out. And I I was so furious because I thought if only you knew, and also just the entitlement that you expect someone to be going, and they didn't have to, and this is why I get angry. We shouldn't have to say, and people, we as in women shouldn't have to say the specifics of what they're going through to have a little bit of grace. Like sometimes I think we need to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but in saying that, I mean, we copped it and we were tiny. You know,
Exactly.
we were a
And
tiny
people weren't paying for it.
Yeah, we were a tiny free podcast
Yeah.
that people, you know, they knew that we came out on a Tuesday and they looked forward to it. And some people felt entitled to that content and they were angry that we didn't put an episode out that week. Imagine what Tones would have felt
Totally.
cancelling on, you know, thousands of people who had paid money and they had blocked out their Saturday or Friday night to go and see her specifically. Like the weight of that would have been enormous. But there is something that's really, I mean, there is something that's almost absurd. I don't even know how to describe it. But I remember when I had my second miscarriage and I was sitting at work and I started bleeding at work. And I knew that
Yeah.
what was happening. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not in pain yet, but I'm definitely miscarrying. So I guess I'll just stay and work. And I remember I was sitting in the office at Tony May and I was just doing emails and doing bits and pieces because I would have just been at home feeling sad and working anyway. And I was like, how odd is it that, you know, someone can be going through their own small trauma in comparative to what, like, you know, a personal tragedy in comparison to what's happening in the world. Like it's all very internal. And you could be on a bus, you could be in a shopping line, you could be at work, like, and this happens every day. And I think there is something so incredibly brave in Tones sharing that because she didn't need to. She got up on stage, she performed, she fulfilled her obligation, quote unquote, to people who had paid ticket prices and everything else. And so for her to come out and share that now, it makes me really proud that we're at a point where women who are suffering from miscarriages, who are going through the absolute fucking trenches of pregnancy loss, can go, okay, well, someone like Tones and I has experienced it. She's able to talk about it. I'm not broken. There's not something wrong with me. It's actually a really normal part of a lot of people's pregnancy journey. And it kind of takes a bit of the stigma away from it and the shame away from it.
But I think it's more than that as well. Yes, absolutely. It's incredible that people like Tones are having these conversations and the shame is gone and the stigma is gone. And the way she even said it, blood ran down my leg. Like,
Yeah.
so simple, so factual. But I think it's more than that. I think it's the education it is putting on people, men, other women that might not have gone through it or know someone that's gone through it. But the realization of what women do have to go through and what they are just like continuing on in their workday, in their life, what they're having to show up for other people, for their families, for the public, for colleagues, for work, everything. I think it's really important that people sit back and are like, fucking wow, like I might need to have a little bit more empathy and a little bit more grace for those people in my life when they're going through it, because no one speaks about it. I haven't heard anyone besides us. I haven't heard anyone speak about it as simply and factually as Tones did. She had such a beautiful level of empathy in it. And it was almost like an education piece without it being an education piece. This is what happened. This is what I experienced. This is what I was told. This is what the pressure I felt. And this is why I showed up. And I thought there are so many aspects of the way she spoke about it that I just applaud.
Yeah. And I think it's important. It's important to say, though, we're talking about the external pressures. It's also, she did something that she wanted to do.
Yeah.
She wanted to perform. It was something that was a milestone and was also really important to her. It's not that she just did it out of obligation, which is definitely a very important thing to highlight because, you know, we make allowances for the things that are important for us. And as women, sometimes we have to, there's like an inherent sacrifice, right? Like we always talk about the sacrifice that surrounds, okay, when are you going to have children and how does that play into what your career is going to look like and how do you kind of like Jenga these things together? But we rarely talk about pregnancy loss as being a part of that Jenga and going, okay, well, you still got your career, you're trying to fit in having children, but how are you fitting in the trying? How are you fitting in the pregnancy loss around that? And you know, I mean, I know that there are so many women who go through miscarriage. Like we said, 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage. And we have spoken about it. We've done 2 episodes now specifically around my pregnancy loss, but we've also spoken to people like Chloe Fisher. And I think the more that people talk about it, the more that it gives me comfort that people who are going through this and are you know, experiencing their own miscarriages feel as though they have a support network around them of women who know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah.
I also think that's the last thing that I wanted to share is that I went to see Tones perform in Sydney on Saturday night. And obviously this news only came out, I think, the day before. So I don't know when she told the rest of her team because this happened, nearly 3 weeks ago. But she was very emotional during the entire performance. And the one thing that I really noticed is how much she has a village around her. And you could just tell that there was such a close connection with the people, in her choir and in her band. And she spoke about that with you guys when, she recorded her episode on Life Uncut.
Yeah, she talks about how her choir is her family.
Totally. You could really see it. I thought, wow, how special that she has such a beautiful village to rely on and to lean on at a time where, she could feel really alone. Like you said, Laura, like not a lot of people, I also haven't experienced a miscarriage, but I can imagine that a lot of people, particularly if it's very early on, they may not want to talk about it because there is certain stigma about pregnancy loss and, questions from people who may not have even known that you were pregnant. Like, I don't know what that feels like. But I can imagine that there would be many reasons that you wouldn't want to share. And that must be really hard to do that and not feel as though you can have a support network around you.
I always find it really interesting now as well. Like, and it is something that we have touched on in the past, but the idea of not telling anyone that you're pregnant until you're outside of the first trimester, I find it a really interesting space because it was not helpful for me. And I say this because it used to be the case that you didn't talk about your pregnancy widely, with people from your office or your friends and your family, because the likelihood that you can have a miscarriage is so high in your first trimester. So if you don't talk about the fact that you're pregnant, then you don't have to tell everyone that you've lost the baby and you've had a miscarriage. But there's actually something really healing in being able to talk about miscarriage. There's something really validating, and it makes you feel as though, in my experience, obviously I can't speak for everyone, it validated the fact that I was pregnant. Because if I didn't tell anyone that I'd had a miscarriage and I didn't tell anyone that I was pregnant, well, no one even knew. And it was like, I just went
isolating.
Yeah, I just went through this loss all on my own. I was so sad. No one knew why. And there I was feeling as though I couldn't be, and I hate the word, but I couldn't be an authentic version of myself because I was going through something that nobody knew about. But I kind of had done it to myself because I was like, oh, I can't really tell anyone that I've had a miscarriage because no one knew I was pregnant. And the first one I had prior to Marley, we were a bit further along. So I was so excited to get to that point of telling everyone. Like, we were so close to that first trimester endpoint that I was like, oh, next week we'll announce it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore. And so the loss and the feelings of sadness were really, really profound. And I think I learned that lesson the second time around because I was like, I'm pregnant, everyone.
I understand it is different for different people. I think people should always tell someone or some people, but it's up to you if you want to announce it from 3-4 weeks
100%.
to the world or not, because if you do miscarry, you might not be the kind of person that wants to talk about it to every single person that you've told, to talk about it publicly. You might want to just deal with it with the 4 people that you had shared it with. Other people might be fine to tell it with everyone. So I don't think there's anything, if it suits you, there's nothing wrong with telling people you're pregnant from a couple of weeks if you know that you're going to be okay. Worst case scenario.
Absolutely. But I think it comes down to the fact that there shouldn't be shame or guilt talking about miscarriage because it is not something. It's something that happens to you, but it's not something that you have control over. All right, it is time for Accidentally Unfiltered, your most embarrassing stories. And let me just say, when I read this one, I audibly laughed out loud, which doesn't happen often.
And I've intentionally not read it.
It's very funny. Okay, and I died for you a little bit on the inside, whoever sent this in. I went to the dentist for a checkup and a clean. During the procedure, the dentist had his finger in my mouth, obviously, and he turned away to grab something or do something. And as he turned his body away from me, he said, "Suck, please." I thought, this is odd. I've never done this before, but I'm not one to question a professional. So I started sucking on his finger.
Why?
I started sucking on his finger. He turned back to look at me so quickly with the wildest expression. And that's when I realized he was asking the dental assistant to get the suction thingy. I've never in my life been more mortified. I finished the procedure. It was all very quiet and they stopped trying to talk to me. Safe to say, I will not ever be going back there and I never want to go to the dentist again.
I reckon that happens more than you think.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Imagine sucking on his finger.
It could be hot.
good suction. Well done.
I saw something recently. It was very funny. It was a priest that was doing a baptism, and the priest put his hand up as part of like the baptism.
Prayer.
Yeah, the prayer. And she high-fived him. She thought it was a high-five. And the priest, this old man just looks at her and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We'll find it. I'll find it. Put it up.
High five. Guys, I honestly, that is the funniest accidentally we've had in ages. It's so good.
You like this?
Fucking gave me a real chuckle.
I'll ask. My bestie's a dentist. I'm going to ask him how often that happens.
Just imagine
I'd
someone
suck his finger. He's so hot.
Imagine
Like, I reckon he would get that all the time.
he says suck please and then people are like, okay. By my pleasure.
If you say so.
All right, we have another one. It's very, very quick. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing and I just sent my computer password to over 100 staff in a Teams chat.
That's so annoying
So
because
dumb.
usually people are pretty mainstream and they just have one password for everything. So that means you change your entire life.
Yeah.
People use the same password for everything.
Don't-
Not me. I have 25, so don't try and hack me. Mine are really hard to get into. They are not my name.
All right, suck and sweet. Britt, what's your suck for the week?
My suck is yesterday when I was driving back from Port Macquarie. It's usually about a 4.5 hour drive. There was this huge traffic jam on the highway and it took me about 7 hours. And I doubled down on the suck. Well, this was good as well. But my sister-in-law owns a cafe in Port Macquarie. And at the cafe, it's called the Brew Box. They have all these delicious sweet treats that are called my big fat tart. Anyway, long story short, they baked Mitch, like our Mitch Turi, all these cupcakes because he lost his job. Like it was really sweet. And they're cupcakes and cookies that are like you're on to bigger and better. Really sweet. And it's my job to bring it back. But because I got stuck in the traffic jam for so long.
They melted.
No, I just
got
got hungry. So I may have had some. I had some.
Just take a picture of
I
them.
did. I took a picture quickly first and then I had some. But there's still heaps for Mitch. There's heaps.
If we're going to talk about sucks, I reckon Mitch's suck is worse. I lost my job then. Britt ate my fucking cupcake. Whore.
you bitch. So that was my suck. And my sweet is 2 sweets. One, I just spent the weekend with all my nieces and nephews and my family and my mum and dad and everyone. It was beautiful because I don't get to see them often. A lot of my aunties and uncles I see just like twice a year. So that was cool. But my other sweet is that I am on the countdown to Bangtown. The countdown till I'm going to see Ben. It's been like 1 week and 6 months, as you guys know, but it's literally it's within 2 fingers of counting. So that's my sweet.
2 hands, you mean, or 2 fingers?
I absolutely meant 2 hands. It's within 2 hands.
My suck for the week is that my child hates me, but that's okay. You kind of go through swings and roundabouts. Molly very defiantly on the weekend told me that I'm breaking up with you, she said. We're
She broke up
broken
with
up.
you?
Yeah, Molly broke up with me. It was news to me that we were dating. But what I have discovered is that Marley's just been listening to way too much Taylor Swift. So now that she thinks when she's angry at me that we're breaking up.
No, she's emancipating.
And we're never getting back together.
And we're never, ever getting back together.
You can break up with your parents. It's emancipation.
She doesn't know that though. She just thinks that we're in a romantic relationship together and she's breaking up with me like Taylor Swift broke up with all her boyfriends.
Oh, you got dumped.
I got dumped by my 5-year-old
Yeah.
on the weekend because I wouldn't let her sleep in the barn with her cousins.
Well, that's pretty mean, Laura.
Yeah, but there's no adults out there and she'd get scared. And to be fair, all the cousins came back by 10 o'clock anyway because they were scared too.
Yeah, you should have let her then, knowing
No.
she'll come back. You should have let her go off you go, and within an hour, she would have been back in that bed.
Nah, couldn't be bothered. Couldn't deal with it. Sometimes you've got to exercise your parental exercising stuff. You know, you got to stick to your
Boundaries.
guns.
Laura hasn't slept in a while.
Yeah, well, I made a rule.
Sometimes you've got to exercise some exercisey stuff.
Yeah, sometimes when you make a rule and then like it doesn't matter how much they kick and scream and yell at
You
you,
gotta
you've
stick
got to
to it.
stick to the rule. And the rule was that she wasn't sleeping in the barn. So she tried every tactic. She screamed at me, she begged me, she cried, and then she told me she was breaking up with me. And I was like, cool, you're stuck with me for at least another 13 years. Woohoo! So that was that. And then my sweet for the week is that we were down the South Coast again this weekend, which is literally my every single weekend at the moment. But our kitchen got installed and it doesn't look shit. So that's really nice because
It looks amazing.
I was pretty certain it was going to look shit, but it looks great. So I'm excited.
I was certain it was going to look shit, but I did it anyway.
Well, no, it was more so like it's very hard. Once you decide on things and then you see them all coming together and it's like it could be good or it could be terrible, but it actually worked out well.
It looks great. Guys, that is it from us. Please, thank you for writing all your questions in and your accidentally unfiltered. There were some absolute bangers this week. Keep them coming in. Ask Uncuts, everything to Instagram, Life Uncut Podcast. Join the discussion group on Facebook.
Tears on my pillow.
Quickly cut it. Keisha, cut it.
In
Cut
my
it. Cut it.
heart.
Hands. Do the hands
Caused
for it.
by you. That's it from us, guys. You know the drill.
Tell your mum, tell your dad, tell your dog, tell your friends, and share the love because
We love love.